All right. Good morning, Liz. How are you today?
I'm wonderful. Thank you for asking. How are you?
I am doing well. So, first and foremost, thank you so much for taking some time on a Saturday morning. I really appreciate your commitment to this interview. So,
Thank
you
you.
and I have been chatting off camera in regards to some administrative specialist positions that I have open. You're currently living in St. Pete and looking to make a move so we can get you more within the salary expectation that you were used to making in previous roles. So let's start by what you've been doing most recently for work, working with contracts and in compliance administration for GA Food Service.
Okay, so currently for GA Food Services, um, I may have mentioned I was hired as a compliance administrative specialist. However, I am doing the work of a contract administrator. This is my first time doing this. And with the contract administrator role, it entails completing Medicaid applications for government-funded programs for home delivered meals, mostly for the elderly. Um, I am also in charge of producing our audits, which I've never done before. It's quite interesting, but it's quite tedious also. Well, I shouldn't say tedious, I should say detail. There's a ton of detail that's involved with performing audits and doing it correctly, of course.
Right.
I also am responsible for ensuring that our licenses throughout the United States, that we are all up to date and in compliance with those licenses, because GA Foods has a number of locations throughout the United States, and the laws are vary from state to state sometimes with business licenses, certificate of insurances, and um, there's one more that I'm trying state. I can't remember right now, but there's a number of certifications. Sorry
Okay.
for the mumbling.
No, it's okay. Yes, you have definitely a lot of moving parts, and it seems like you're wearing a lot of hats in that role. I'm also interested in hearing about your time at Hillsborough County. It looks like you were with them for a little over 3 years, working in procurement, and also in an admin in the Public Works Department. Tell me a little bit about that position.
So my first opportunity to come aboard with Hillsborough County was as an administrative assistant for the Public Works Department, and there I supported the unit managers. The unit manager, and basically what we did was do help with the onboarding, not so much the onboarding, but more so with the human resource paperwork of the onboarding, and ensuring that all of our construction team members were up to date with their training, their required training. Should there ever had been any issues, or correcting timesheets, that sort of thing. I also went out and I worked out on the fields with them. I needed to learn what it was like to, to do what they do, and so I had a better understanding of the construction world, which I now have a completely new respect for those construction guys out in the street and what they do. It's not easy.
Yep, absolutely.
Did that
Now,
answer your question?
that did. It would definitely give me a great overview. And then I also want to make sure that we hit on you have some very impressive experience working with attorneys. It actually looks like the majority of your career was spent working in the
Yeah.
law firms, from document production to admin assistant to even being an executive assistant, helping the attorneys and the chief of staff. So tell me a little bit about those roles and your time working in litigation.
Sure. So first, I'll go as far back as the Lanier Law Firm, which was one of my first introduction into into law. Actually, I was a criminal justice major when I began working there, and I began working at the Lanier Law Firm as a receptionist. And soon thereafter, or sometime thereafter, I was hired or promoted to be the chief executive assistant and the um, staff, chief managing attorney and the chief of staff. Sorry about that. So I was almost the office manager without the title. I was responsible for helping with the onboarding. Our main office was in Houston, Texas, or is in Houston. Well, the Lanier Law Firm's main office is in Houston, Texas. And so I was sort of the liaison between our main office down in Houston, Texas, and the New York office, which is where I was located. I helped. We acquired the floor above us because we were expanding. So there was furniture purchasing and construction involved, and I was responsible for a lot of those matters, or the liaison between the Houston office and myself. I was responsible. I was the gatekeeper for Richard Meadow. He was the managing attorney, and for Evan Janish, who was the chief of staff. Was that I don't know
Absolutely.
if I've given
Yes,
you an answer.
that's fantastic. Now, in throughout your career, what softwares would you feel like you were most proficient at?
Well, I mean, I would say definitely Word, right? I haven't had a lot of opportunity to work with PowerPoint. I am familiar with it, but to be truly honest, I am not a pro at it. I'm happy
Okay.
to learn it. I just never had the chance to truly, work on it continuously to say that I'm a pro. Excel, of course. Outlook, calendars, calendar managing, that sort of thing. I also, when I worked at Rogers Towers, that's in Jacksonville, I was promoted to document production specialist, and one of my roles there was to do dictation. That was my first time doing dictation, so I am familiar with doing dictation. I have to be honest with you. I was freshly out of New York City and working in Jacksonville, and when I had to listen to the audio tapes in order for them to transcribe them. Initially, I had such a difficult time because there was this country twang
Oh,
that was in there, so that was a little frustrating. But eventually, I got it. Also, expenses. I have done expenses. I was responsible for the attorney's expenses for during response to. I don't remember what the proper term was, but basically when we received the legal documents and we were reproducing those documents and returning them back to the defendant,
right.
response to request, or I can't remember the titles of those documents right now.
Wonderful. Now, Liz, at this stage in your career, what is the most important thing to you about the next company that you work for?
I want to find a home. I want to find a place where I am valued and where I can stay, where I have longevity. Eventually, the people that you work with, they're not just your coworkers, they are an extended part of your family. And I am looking for my next home, like maybe even my forever home.
Fantastic. Liz, thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording and chat with you a little bit more if that sounds good.
Yes, thank you.